Good evening and welcome back to the shop here in Canterbury, New Hampshire. We're going to talk about tonight how to inlay an ebony line, or a line also called binding, along the outer edge of a tabletop like this. Now, this one is Cuban mahogany sunburst with an edge, with a binding right here. And just to show you a little contrast, we've got this walnut table that some of you might recognize from one of the episodes, I think it was episode 3 of Classic Woodworking with Terry Moore. And he and I made this table together. And he loves this detail. We've got a piece of curly maple binding along the edge of this one with a complementary curly maple plug in the center. That's sometimes it's probably more common than not to have the same kind of material in the center as out on the rim. So I want to get started in this, but just remind you, if you enjoy this content, go ahead and subscribe, hit the red button so that you get notified of this content all the time. And best of all, you can connect with us on our mailing list at epicwoodworking.com. I did it right this time.
You always
So
do it.
proud. Yeah, right.
The specifics are not that fun. I get it.
All right. Now, you might probably wondering why I have this guitar back here. Well, I thought I would play a little opening number. Actually, I would love to be able to do that for you. But I am right now learning to play guitar. Can you believe it? An old guy like me. But I've always wanted to, and so maybe just like you're learning woodworking at this, however old you are in your life, it doesn't matter. I'm doing the same with guitar. So I've got little calluses on my finger, but I wanted to show you this guitar, which I have not played yet. I picked it up in an online auction. It was made in Japan. They make some nice classical guitars like this. And I got this baby for $23. Isn't that bad? But I'm not here just to talk about my auction finds. I want to just mention that you've seen lots of binding before, because it's always, you'll see it on the corner of your guitar body, especially acoustics, and there is one on the back as well. Now, it serves a kind of a dual purpose. It's decorative, but it's functional in a way that it does how its name is called. It binds the corner. It actually protects the veneer, or the combination of wood coming at a right angle along the edge. So let me set this aside. We'll have a little concert later. I want to demonstrate with a round top similar to this one. I just wanted to revisit the Kleenex boxes because this is another example of a piece that was veneered, and you can go back and watch us make these fantastic boxes. We actually did 2 weeks. It was so much fun.
We can put a link to that later.
But the veneer on the top of this walnut is actually only about a 42nd of an inch thick. These corners actually came out exceptionally crisp, if I say so myself. So they're really nice and clean. But, you know, right on this corner, I don't think you can pick that up, but there's a little chip out. And you can imagine in using this,
Hold it still, hon.
it would probably get dropped at some point and ding or dent a corner. And what you would see is the substrate, which on this one is masonite. It's dark, and we've got a cherry lining here. Since this one, I started making them with 1/4-inch MDF. We did it in a class. We made a few of these. But this is a vulnerable kind of edge to damage. And MDF, as you know, is a little bit softer than masonite too, and it would break, and then you'd be kind of stuck trying to correct it. Well, when you put a hard material on the corner, inlay it in there, you've done two things. You protected the edge and you protected that thin veneer from flaking or popping off, like you may have seen on edges of furniture before. So the binding, this one has a binding fully surrounding, and you can see it not only gives you that decorative effect, but that corner is really well protected all around. And you're able to sand it more aggressively, actually round it a little bit, where I'm always afraid to go too aggressively on just a piece of veneer because you've got just these two pieces, and if you hit it too hard, you'll be seeing the substrate showing right along the corner. So good reason for binding, decorative and protective. So I'm going to set this aside and show you the method. Now, some of you, this is child's play. We've done this before, right? I mean, I have shown in some other courses on veneering, we've done the round top, we've inlaid a compass rose, and I just couldn't find where I've done it around the edge. I'm sure it's buried somewhere in a long video, but the method consists of just cutting a little inside corner, or also called a rabbet, into the edge of your workpiece, and then gluing in a line that fits that corner. See that? Right like that. So this I already did. This is actually my test. So to set it up to be appropriate for the actual line that you have. Now, this is some material. That's the rabbet. It's just a little inside corner cut, and the line gets glued in like that.
And that's what you're calling the binding.
The binding, yeah. The line or binding. Yeah. So rather than laying it in here, we're putting it right on the corner. Now, I'm going to use real live ebony, Gaboon ebony, the good dark, truly black ebony. There is macassar, which has a stripiness to it. And then this is wenge, which is, let me wet this a little bit to show you what happens. I've got a little denatured alcohol here. This is wenge, and you see when you wet that, it gets to a nice kind of darker brown. But it's quite dark, but it's not like the Gaboon ebony. I mean, look at that, is just jet black. And this has gone up so much in price. It's usually can get it in smaller pieces like this. You can get it in a 2x2 by 24 inches. I know you can get those from Goose Bay, and that's goosebaylumber.net. They have like exotic material. They'll call them turning blanks. But if you buy it like that, you clearly, to get to lines, you have to have a way to saw it up. So I usually square up a corner and then set my bandsaw to about 1/8 of an inch and just slowly go through. And then flip that piece up on edge and then come at it the other way. So you end up with about 1/8 inch square. And then I'll put it through my drum sander and sand to the final thickness. Now my optimal line usually in pieces is 30 seconds. I just wanted to show you this again. This box, you may have thought that was Gaboon ebony, but just to show you, this is how dark the wenge can look. The wenge against the walnut. And it's a nice look. So that would have a beautiful finished appearance in the end. It almost can pass for ebony. But so you don't have to use ebony. The wenge is less expensive, significantly. But if you want to use real Gaboon ebony, you can buy it like that and make your own. Sometimes you can find scraps or an actual piece somewhere, but you're going to pay dearly for it. Those 2x2 by 24, I think, are about $70 or something like that,
Wow.
$80. So it's not cheap. It is a very hard kind of brittle material. When you card scrape it or hand plane it, it's almost waxy and it comes off beautifully. It hand planes really nicely. And I'll hopefully get to show you that a little bit later. But I just want to show you if you want to make your own. Now, you don't even have to use real Gaboon ebony. You can use black lines and it will pass for ebony. They sell a lot of material that is actually dyed through and through black. And it's very hard to tell the difference. It may be a little softer. I'm not sure what all of it is made out of, but there's another place you can go to. It's inlay.com and look at the lines they have available there. They're black, and you can actually get pre-made lines so you don't even have to cut them up.
It's inlays.com, and it's in our description there.
Oh, thank you,
Giving
yeah.
me that link.
But let's go ahead. I'm just going to finish this a little bit. And what I want to show you first is the cutter. So to make a rabbet, I'm going to be using this rabbiting cutter, which I showed you last time, I believe, or a couple times ago when we were talking about routers, I think. And I already got it set up, so I'm not going to take it out to show you, but the cutter itself is about 1 3/8 inch diameter, and it's about a 1/2 inch high. And I've got it in there with when it comes with a lot of different bearings. So this bearing is an 1/8 inch, whoops, I think this is actually the flush bearing. So this is the same diameter as the cutter. So if you put this one on, you'll get flush. But it came with several different sizes, stepped down just slightly, so you could set it up for an exact eighth inch, 16th inch. I think this might even be the 16th. Let's see. Yeah, that looks like the 16th. So you could get a perfect 16th inch wide rabbet, and this bearing is the 1/8 inch. But as you might have heard me mention, I said I like my lines 3/32. They don't make a bearing, so I wrapped a little shim tape around there to build it out a little bit, and I just keep that bearing like that because it's ready to go to make a smaller rabbet right between the two. It's just too, a 16th is too small and an 1/8 is too thick when you look at it at the diagonal. An 1/8 inch almost becomes 3/16 of an inch at the diagonal. So yeah, you can't live with that.
Can't do that.
I mean, I would toss and turn all night.
Tolerate that.
So we've got this set up for the 3/32, and I also got the depth set about the same. Now, I start out with my stock. Here's the line as it finished out, and I'm just going to cut a little bit. I'll just show you a quick straight rabbet here. Here's a small piece. I'm going to set it in there. And it's just a little bit proud, so I have something to take off. And it's just a little proud here, too. See, that bearing spins longer because it's got that tape on there. All right, so if you want to glue this in, if I was doing all straight cuts like this, you can also set it up in the router table, and that would actually work nicely for, I think that's how I had it set up when I did that, the box, the tissue box. So you can run each corner, and then you're just holding this small box. I almost would do that with this tabletop too. If I had a bunch of them to do, I would. But I'm just going to hand hold that. Where I changed the line on using a router table or holding the router is if it's a larger workpiece, I'm probably going to leave that at the bench and work the router. Because holding that up on the router table is a challenge. So this small table, I could do it at the router table, but you can also easily if you have a system to clamp them easily, you can work it in a way that you could go right around really quickly. I have a vacuum clamp, but I'm not going to get that out tonight. Anyway, the way to glue this in, check this out. I got that little rabbit. I'm just going to take my little bottle. You can also use contact lens bottles here. If you don't find one of these Dollar General bottles that the camera lady, the bargain hunter, found. And so then you just set it in there. And see, we get a little squeeze out top and bottom. I'm not going to worry about cleaning that off. I'm going to use this green tape. This is picked up. We mentioned this previously in other, I can't remember what else we were doing. But this is the Scotch 233. Yeah. What's nice about it, it's I got it at an automotive store, but you can buy it online. I should have given you the link for that too. But it's Scotch 233 Plus. Okay? See that? If you want to buy this exact stuff. What's different is it's just way tougher than the typical masking tape, the manila color, and it's much less likely to break around the corner, and there's a little stretch to it. So it's super when acting like a clamp. You can pull it a little bit and then push your thumbs down, and look at that. We've got a nice tight fit, and I could set it and forget it. Most glues say they'll dry in about an hour. If it's nice and dry in here and it's a straight cut, I'd leave it, I'd leave it about an hour at least. But usually I'm on to something else, and I'll just let them go for probably half a day or overnight, whatever. So for this top, I'm going to put a line in around the edge, and this is where it gets a little more complicated than a straight line, because I've got to have something that will conform to this curve. Now, most wood, when it's cut this small, will bend fine. And this would probably make it, but it's starting to feel like it might break. It's very brittle. This is probably fine to go, but one of the problems with curves like this is when you have kind of a rigid, brittle wood like this, it's not so much getting around the middle of it, it's right at the end. And when you go to tape that end in, it wants to just stay out that little bit right at the very end. It's hard to clamp it in with the glue reliably, okay? So what I like to do is train it to the curve a little bit. Let me show you that. And you can make a circle the same size as this and train your piece around. I'll show you. I'm going to plug in an iron. So rather than bending it around a curve this large, because once you bend it around, when it comes around off, it springs back quite a lot. But I'm going to bend it around a radius that's about 12 inches. So when it comes off, it'll have something of a curve. You don't have to have it tight to the curve. And I'm not steam bending this. I just want to show you a fairly quick method for bending stock like this. Now before, I'm going to help myself out a little bit here by cutting little miters on the ends of these pieces. So let me get that piece of wood back. I'll flip it on this side here. So I set up this little gauge at a 45. I made a 45-degree line on here. I just brought it up. And that seems to work pretty well. This is going to pre-cut the overlap, because these pieces, I don't have a long enough piece to go all the way around. So it's going to actually take 3 pieces to get around here. So right where they butt up against each other, rather than just having a butt joint, I'm going to cut a 45, and that way it'll make it easier for them to pull and nest together and to tape it tightly. And the seam shows a whole lot less whenever you cut a diagonal. But this is black, so it's pretty invisible if you do a halfway decent job. So I'm not going to saw this, I'm just going to chop it. And I'm going to start by just taking a little bit off the end. And then you need a sharp chisel for this, by the way. And now I'm going to use that. And I've got a nice little 45 right there. Now I'm going to spin it, keeping it the same side up. So I'm going to end up with the opposite angle at this end. So you just got to make sure you don't have the same at each end. So they'll all be bent the same and they'll match up. They have opposite ends. Okay, that's it. So once I have that, now I'm ready to train it for the curve. You want to do that before you train it because it's hard to hold it straight when it has a bend in it, right? All right, here's one I got. Now I made some tables that had severe curves. I mean, like little curves like this, that with ebony, and I had lines like this. And I tried just bending it right out of the gun, and they were splintering. And I thought, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? And so I thought, I will steam these. And I think there's no need to build a whole steam box and that whole thing. I'll just get the turkey roasting pot and put a little water in it. It had a big lid, and put it on the stove. Do you remember that?
I do remember that.
Like 20 years ago. And
it was impressive.
I got the sticks sticking out of there like spaghetti. You know, I couldn't get them all the way in. And boiled it for a while, and then I had little forms like this in the kitchen that I taped it around, and that seemed to work. I found out a while later, that did work pretty well. It really bent them nicely, but only if I was doing that severe of a curve. I found out later from Terry, we were doing something like this, and he goes, oh, just use an iron. Just use an iron. So that's what I'm going to show you right now. You just want to really wet it. I wet it a couple times. It doesn't saturate. This is so dense. But and then I'm going to come over to my form, and you want to have your iron hot. And I'm just going to dry this first bit. Yeah, that feels pretty hot. Just going to get it taped on there. Now, if you have material that's not as brittle and you can make the curve, there's no need to do this. So, excuse me. Then I'm just going to let the iron, the heat, move it slowly and let it kind of bake in the curve. So it's the heat with that little bit of moisture is relaxing it a bit. Okay, so it's just getting a little more pliable to get around this thing. And after I just do a short section.
Sorry, I can't help you with that tape thing.
That's all right. I'm used.
You're used to working on your own.
I'm used to having nobody here. I'm used to having no assistance. All right, so then I'm going to keep going. And you want to go slow so you really let that heat bake in. And it gives it that little more flex and curvature. Okay? And one more little bit.
Some good discussion about ironing happening in homes.
Ironing? People iron anymore? I don't know.
These guys are responsible for their own ironing, they're saying.
Yeah, you should be, right? I mean, how often do you do it? Unless you're
A lot of military learning, I think.
Yeah, that's true. You gotta iron your own shirts, you know?
Yeah, Stephen is asking about steaming, and you said that
That works.
works, but it was a little overkill?
Yeah,
Not necessarily.
I think it's overkill for this. Unless you had a really strong curve and you want to use a solid ebony line, it's not the best steam bending wood. You know, it's so dense, but it actually,
Let's get a good look
I
at that.
think I left it in about a half an hour. And it had a little turkey smell, but that was fine. You got to let that dry, and I set it aside, and I'm going to bring over some that I already did. So here's another one, and I've got actually 3 sticks around this one. Let's see how it came out. Now it's going to spring back quite a bit, but it'll have enough of a curve that it will help somewhat to make the curve, especially at the end. That'll make a difference.
Yeah, there's a question, Tom, from Dean about where your homemade tape dispenser is.
Oh, that's my veneer tape dispenser.
Ah, okay.
I'm not going to use the veneer tape for this. But yeah, that's a classic. Someday we'll break down and buy ourselves a fancy veneer tape dispenser. All right, so not too crazy of a bend there, but enough for this. It's going to work really well. All right.
Great.
So once I get this off, my edging is ready to rock, and I am going to...
So Michael's asking how long you left that on the form. Did you say that?
Oh, these I did just after lunch, so that was about
8 hours or so?
7 hours, 6, 7 hours. I mean, it dry. There was no... You could probably go a little less than that, because it's the heat that really starts to train them. But I let them dry a little more. I didn't soak them, so. But you can see how much of a curve they've got, and they're really easy now to make the bend. I don't have to force them at all, even though they're quite brittle. We got to get our little rabbit on there. So I'm going to set my workpiece out on this corner. Got the full quadrant. Now you notice when I was using the router, I put this larger plate back on. It's amazing how much more stability you feel with a larger plate surface. So whenever I have a tricky routing, it's worth the time to put this back on instead of just a smaller plate. Sometimes you feel pretty shaky with that in certain applications. All right, so I am going to route this in. Now, we talked about routing a few weeks ago, and for this, because it's such a light cut, whenever I'm making a light enough cut with the router where I'm not getting much pull, I will climb cut, meaning I'll go clockwise. So I'm actually traveling in the same kind of with the spin of the bit. So you never want to do that when you're taking too much of a bite, because it'll run away from you. When you're pulling against the cutter, that's when you want to make your heavier cuts. All right, so here we go. Okay, just a little bit more. Okay, there's a little fuzz around the corner there, and I just knock it off. You can see that those little fibers there. If you just hit them quickly like that, it'll clean it up.
Claude's asking, why climb cut? Why would you choose to do that?
anytime I can climb cut, I'll choose it because if there's any chance for it to tear out, it's more likely to happen on a pole cut. When you're climbing, it's like you're kind of sneaking up on the fibers, so it's not as likely to tear out, which it might happen a little here, but usually I think you could safely go either way here, but I like the practice of it for that reason. It gives you that little more insurance that you're going to get a really clean cut. Because I've got all this end grain coming out on my sunburst the entire way around, and it can be a little chippy, but that looks really clean. So I'll finish cleaning that up. You may be thinking, this feels like it's going to be a two-parter, but it's not. I'm not going to do it in two parts. We got started a little late, but we had a little technical issue, but this actually will go quite quickly. All right, that's that. Now you can blow it out, or you can use your sophisticated brush. I love this brush.
So cute.
I got this from Fine Woodworking at the Fine Woodworking Live event. I think it was the first time I went, 2018. Awesome. And now I'm ready to glue it in. So you want to bring over your stool and get your premium glue bottle. Before I had this, I used, you can also use like contact lens bottles. They have a nice little small opening and they work great. And it always stays really clean. This puts out a little more glue, but I'm going to use it. All right, so I'm going to start this way with one of my bevels angled like that. Okay, and this will be my starting point. I'm going to go ahead and glue that in. When I come all the way around the end, I'll lay that last piece over the top, and I'm going to scribe it from underneath. So it just made more sense to glue this right in. So let's go ahead and get some glue on here, and I'll show you how quickly this actually works. I don't want a ton of glue, but it's okay if it squeezes out. Not going to go too far, but I want to make sure there's plenty at the beginning. You don't really have to smooth it out much. Just make sure you have enough on that inside corner. And here we go. I'm going to just make sure I got that started nicely. And get the green tape. And I'm going to put it right near the end, but I don't want to cover the end or I won't be able to scribe to it. That's good pressure right there.
Make several pieces.
What's that?
Make some pieces of tape.
I'm not understanding. Make some pieces?
Cut some so ahead for yourself.
Oh, you could, but I like to pull it right off the roll. I'll show you why in a second here.
Oh.
Okay, so I'm going to just keep going and let it just kind of set in there. And I'm kind of pulling it a little bit. So I'm going a pretty good distance here. And I'm going to put a piece of tape on here. And this is holding it pretty much tight, but this is almost like tacking it in place. Now I can come back and just really pull all of these on. See, we're getting that little bit of squeeze out. That's good.
So I'm going to ask some questions while you're working.
Sure.
Mike's asking what type of glue to avoid issues with finish when squeeze out.
Mm-hmm. Oh, good question, Mike.
That's a question for you.
I'm just using, I got Type Bond 3 in that bottle. It all gets scraped off. So, and it's pretty obvious, which I'll show you in a little bit. when you get to that point. So now I'm going to lead again a little more.
Okay. Do you ever use, Michael's asking, do you ever use a binding that is not square? For example, 1/4 inch by 1/8 inch?
Oh, yeah, Michael. Yeah. Actually, on that table I showed you initially, those round ones, that mahogany one, that has a 1/16 inch thick by, it was about 1/8. And so in that case, I just didn't, when I put those in, I didn't have material. I just sanded these down this afternoon. So I did use a thinner one there. I mean, a lot of the guitar ones, they're only like a 1/16 inch thick. So they're really easy to bend around. And, it's other kinds of materials too. Sometimes it's plastic, but I don't use plastic.
Stuart's asking, could you have performed the same task using a trim router?
Sure, Stuart. You would, with a trim router, you're going to have a 1/4 inch shank requirement because they usually limit you to that. And that, I was using the larger router because I like the stability of it, but also that rabbiting bit I showed you, the CMT one, is a 1/2 inch shank. And that, we did put that in the notes, right? The
Yep,
CMT?
the CMT set, bit set is in the link.
Yeah, I just linked to the same one I have. I know other companies make router bit sets. I like the variety of the collars they give you there, the rub collars.
David just joined and he's asking what kind of wood this is. He's thinking it's beautiful.
This wood is actually Cuban mahogany veneer. So it's mahogany veneer, and when it's quarter sawn, it gives you this stripy pattern. So it's the same actually as that panel up above my tool cabinet. It gets darker like that. And so I arranged the ribbon cut quarter sawn figure in this radiant pattern, and the edge binding is ebony. So that's what we're putting in right now. So I really want to tighten down right there at the end, but it's so much nicer because we pre-bent them a little bit. I'm getting a little glue on my surface. I'm going to wipe that off in the middle because it's easier to do it now. So I want to get the end that matches, so I've got the bevel now is going to slip underneath that one. So let's get the glue in here. Camera lady's getting her tight shot, and I had to have my head back.
That bevel thing, I'm just trying to
I know.
get a good picture
No,
of
that's
that,
good.
'cause I know that's, could be a brain teaser.
It's just funny if people could see how I have to contort sometimes. Contort, too. All right, so there we go. And just wipe that right in.
It's worth it.
And now we'll just set this in. I'm going to push a little glue so it gets into the seam. That's good. This piece is a little thinner to start with. That's okay. It's not too thin. And right there, I'm going to make sure I get that really taped firmly right at the beginning. Nice and tight.
John's asking, is it a good idea to put a small chamfer on the inside edge of the binding?
You could, John, but I haven't found it necessary. This is square, and I like the inside corner. You know, it forces the glue out, so you're getting it nice and true. I don't think it's worth that step, but you certainly could. I don't. You want to make sure your material's square. If you weren't sure, you could do that. Ease it a little bit. Now I'm going to come in and really pull. Get that in. It's acting like my clamp. Oh, I can't wait for you guys to see the shaker dresser video and final article. Thank you all so much for pre-buying the plans. is awesome. We had quite the nice run on the plans.
Yeah, still available.
Yeah, we are, if you're just thinking of holding on to the plans for a little while, because you, of course, this might be in the future that you're watching this, but right now it's not available, but we are going to create a longer form build of that chest, but the article doesn't actually come out till May. So if you can hold on, if you want to have that more in-depth training or
Build it with you.
build it with me. I mean, I'm going to walk through a lot of the subtleties that really might help you
Are you
out.
suggesting you wouldn't start that until after the article comes out?
I would want to have it ready for, yeah, right. So, yeah, probably not till after the article comes out, because we're going to, there'll be people who want to get in on it after the article. So everybody will be having their plans, and we'll have a big video series, a course that we'll do, a live streaming course. And whoever wants to make it can make it, and it'll be a lot of fun. That's a great piece. It's pretty involved.
Hey, Patty. This is Tom's sister, Patty. She's asking, where will the article be published?
Hey, Pat. It'll be in Fine Woodworking magazine. So I'll get you a copy. All right, let me go back over here.
Okay.
I got a little ahead of myself. I forgot to get back here. I tacked it here, and then you want to catch up to where you tacked it.
If you want to pre-order plans, they should be going out sometime later next week.
Yeah, I would say the end of the week. Wait.
You can pre-order them on epicwoodworking.com.
Yeah, it's probably the most complicated thing I've ever tried to draw, so it might be, yeah, I may finish them. We'll keep you notified, but it's going to be right around the end of next week.
Cam's asking if you could use, assuming this is California glue or CA glue.
Oh, CA glue, yeah, California.
Sorry, is that wrong? Sorry. Oh, I
No,
take
that's
these
good,
risks I
though.
shouldn't take.
It's only in California. It's good.
California glue.
Cam, that's a good question. You probably can. I have not used it. One, I know it's more expensive, but if you had more open time, I haven't played around a lot with CA glues, so maybe you can suggest if you're going to do it, you'd probably want a certain kind of open time. And I know some of them are activated once you spray them, and maybe that's the way to go. But you're going to have all that tape on there. And I seriously like doing, you get such a good bond with the wood glue like this, and it gives you more time to work it. I would just find it a little more tricky, I think, to use a glue that sets either quickly or needs an accelerator, All right, so we're getting to our last piece. So
Bob is asking, Tom, Bob is asking about a shop course for the dresser, and Tom was just explaining, Bob, that we are going to do one later, probably, maybe early summer.
Yeah, it'll be, so if you can hold off till then, but if you feel comfortable, you'll have all the information. We are showing in the video series with Fine Woodworking, that should be done probably, that's going to probably take until May too to get all those out. And I'm not going to jump the gun, I'm letting them get their content out before we do anything, added
The plans
to
will be
that.
out there, so if you want to build on your own, that's
Yeah,
totally cool.
but you do pick up plenty, I think, from those videos, so you get that too. All right, so I'm making my home run here. Now this is going to be a partial piece, so I'm going to do the same thing at the beginning here. I want to get this really tight, big couple here. Look at that camera work. Camera lady is on top of her game tonight. Now I'm going to slip this other 45 matching right in there and tack it in.
We've got a question about the show status from Dee's Hardwood Creations.
Hey, Dee's Hardwood Creations. The
Classic woodworking.
Oh, well, I wish I had something to announce to you finally, but it's in the works again. You know, we're always talking about it. It's been a wild, weird year with the COVID for GBH, so they've even had people like Lydia, I always say her name wrong, Pasjanovich? I don't know. I think I'm adding a syllable. But that she's a great Italian cook. They do her shows too, and she's been actually recording a number of them on an iPhone through the pandemic. So yeah, and so they're saying maybe you could do that. I'm like, I don't know. Well, anyway, it's going to be good.
That's what we do.
We don't know. We're getting the funding together, so we were lining up some things. So that's always the challenge.
We're hopeful.
Yeah, we might have some creative ways if some of you people want to get involved with the funding, and you'd have some fun experiences as well, and maybe even, some perks like getting to watch the shoot, getting to maybe go home with a piece, from the show. It's all for a certain thing, but
Dee's Hardwood says he wakes up at 3 a.m. to watch it. Wow, that's impressive.
Wow, I am impressed. That's amazing. Well, yeah, we're excited to get it back on.
This is so exciting. What we're watching here is coming to the end here.
Yeah. You serious now? All right, so I'm being pretty brave here.
I'm going to
putting
come over
the
there
glue.
so I can see how you're going to end this.
No, stay right there. That's better spot,
Is it?
actually.
Okay.
Yeah. So I'm going to bring it around. Probably shouldn't put so much glue, but I got to hurry now. And I'm going to hold it right at the overlap. I'm going to take my scalpel. This is important that you hold the scalpel really short. Sorry, I got to get down there. I'm in all kinds of shadows. Otherwise, it might flick off there and poke your thumb and cause a little bleeding, which don't ask me how I know that. But see how short I'm just going easy here. I'm marking it right on that bevel, right underneath, with it held in position. Oh, shoot. That's what I didn't mean to glue that in yet. I did it wrong. Actually, this one I forgot to mention. I was so excited it was going so fast. You want to keep this one dry until you cut it. But I would have taped it in like that. It's okay. I'm going to go fast. Don't worry. It'll be okay.
I think we all feel quite at home right now, hon.
There. I think that's enough. Yeah. All right. So there's my little knife cut. I can't really show it to you. Just trust me. I see it. And my chisel. Okay, there's a little miter cut right here. There you go. That's it. That's the miter. So I'm going to come off that a little bit. Usually I do it on a sacrificial board, but hey, why not a little cut in the bench? And now the cut to the line. So you got to take it off, a little off first, okay? Or else it's hard to trim that last bit. I'm going to put a little more glue in here just to wet it up again. It's fine, I'll get it in quickly. And see, that's the kind of thing, if we're doing the TV show, we'd go, oh, shoot.
Cut.
Cut. Bring out the next top. There is no next top. All right, then. Fake it. Oh, it's beautiful. It's perfect. All right, I'm going to bring this around. And let's just tack it right here. And get this on again. Now this is going to be fine. Okay. Now we'll get it. Yeah, that's looking good. At the end. I don't know if I came up a little short. Can't really tell.
We know there's some talk about watching the show. I had a question from a man today about how to see some of the episodes, and I don't know if you all know that the episodes are purchasable on Amazon Prime. You can buy them for $2.99 a piece if that is something you
They
are.
are $2.99 a piece?
I think you can buy the season for a cheaper price, but
Yeah, I think also they're on PBS. PBS is on one of these platforms. The PBS, what is it called? Anyway.
well, I think that's what you might be referring to, because Amazon Prime has a program with PBS. It's called, I don't even know. But anyway, so you can find it there, and if you're a member of Unlimited Membership at Fine Woodworking, they still have the episodes on their website for members.
Okay, there, it's done. Now I'm going to have to let it dry. Let's just hang out for a few hours, and then we'll take this off. Just kidding. I got
great.
another one over here ready to come out of the oven. This heavily taped area right here is where the final joint is. So we're coming right in here. This is where that final overlap is. So that's nice. I mean, you can't really see it. The nice thing about this is if you even did come up a little short, you can just fill it with like black anything. Black shellac stick works great. It's so forgiving when you're trying to patch, or if you get a little chip in this, you can just fill it.
This is the other one you're taking, yeah.
Yeah, this is the one I did earlier today just to get ready so I could show you. But this is how... Sorry, let me try to do this a little faster. This is the only thing. Removing the clamps takes a little longer with this stuff, especially the part that got put into under one of the clamps. But you're starting to see it. Looks pretty sweet on there. And I'll just clean up one little section for you here. Now we'll put some little clamps on there. I'm just going to show you how I would clean up the edge after it dried like this. So the way you clean this is do a little bit to how much material you still have exposed. So this is up, but it's just barely up. But I like you can have a block plane, and this is just really lightly set. But when it's leaning up like this, it's actually the cutting surface is resting on the binding. So you don't have to worry about it cutting into your top as long as you keep it up on the binding like that. So I'm just come around. This is where you start to see how nicely ebony planes. See this? Look at how those curls will come off. Now, this tape is annoying. Usually, of course, you'd have the whole thing off. It's kind of fun because you can really go around the whole thing. So now you're starting to see more stringiness. And it feels almost like these are waxy little shavings. It's beautiful. You can hear it too. It's like harder than... So you want to set this fine because you don't want to be too aggressive or you'll cut right into your veneer. And that would be a bummer.
Tommy's asking, how would you fix any gaps between the binding and the surface?
In here?
Yeah.
I would just fill it with, your circle is true because you routed it to the edge. If you were a little gapped out there, you can, I just use black shellac stick. That's all I would do. And just melt it right in there really, and you're sanding it in no time, and you never see that because it's black. It's all black. All right, so I get close with that, and then I'll go to a card scraper so that, now with a card scraper like this, you don't want to go straight across here or we could tear up these fibers. So I'm going to kind of angle it inward. So I'm in an awkward position, but these sweeping cuts, so I'm bringing it in from the outside. See, and we're getting nice shavings. And I just want to go until I take the glue away. I can see that glue. You can see the glue residue. And I'm just sweeping in. And I'm getting rid of that glue. The nice thing about this mahogany is it's pretty tough. It's a Cuban ribbon, so. All right, so that looks pretty clean. Again, I'm sweeping inwardly. I'm getting a really nice clean surface there. Looks awesome. All right.
How thick is that veneer? Moonlight's asking.
It's a 42nd of an inch. I think this is just slightly more because it was sawn special. If you got any glue, you can just lightly take it off like that. Now, I've got a little bit sticking out there. I could put this up on edge and card scrape it, or you could take another router, like I've got a little straight cutter in here, straight bearing, and I'm going to try this just to skim that little section. Of course, you do the whole thing, then you bring it up on edge, and you can card scrape this. I'm going to pull it toward me so you can see it here. And I'm just lightly pulling until I see the glue get taken away. See that glue residue there? You're just going to card scrape until that's gone. And then you're good. And then you can sand. So look how beautifully tight that is. And the last thing I do here, that's good enough for that area, is when I'm finished sanding, you can take 220 on the orbital, or you can palm sand it 220 to 320, and just a little bit here. And then on the edge, again, this would be up in the vise, but I'll just do it like this. And what I like to do after I've sanded the edge to also 220 is break the edge using 150. So you want to kind of go at a diagonal here so you don't get chip out. And that's going to really kill the hardness of that edge. And it's so much nicer. And I'll come in and finish with 220. Let me just put it up in here again. Let's put it so you can see it. How about that? All right, so I'm going to come around back on this side. I just want to show you how I'm breaking the edge. I'm not going to, you never want to cross grain sand, but I'm just lightly softening that. So it's got a little bit, just a lightly sanded radius, but it's pretty soft and rounded. And that really looks beautiful. All right, I'm going to just hit it with a little denatured alcohol here. So you'd finish that whole thing and then come on in tight, and we're going to hit.
Ooh.
So there's how our finished look is with when you get finish on there.
Wow.
And let's see how it looks on our black base. So is that too much light behind it?
Beautiful. Beautiful.
So that's the look. And isn't that neat how that black line is picked up in the base and gives it a really sweet finished look. And it protects it as well. So that's a crash course in inlaying or putting in edge binding.
Oh, Tommy's asking, what would you use if you wanted a white accent?
Tommy, that's this one right here is curly maple, so you actually see the curl in it. That's pretty sweet. Or you could just use straight maple, which would be a lighter. Or if you really want to be purist about it, you could get some holly. That comes in smaller pieces, but you could make your own. And that's really, it's pure white. I mean, it's a beautiful wood, nice creamy, nice texture. A lot of texture like the ebony, but softer and easier to work, not as brittle. All right, everybody. Hey, if you had a good time, you enjoy this content, please share with other people. Let them know we're out here.
Yes.
It's helping us. We'd love to see the community growing and to subscribe and hit the bell. And of course, if you really want to get tied in, join our mailing list at epicwoodworking.com. So we'll see you next time right back here on Shop Night Live. See ya.